Okay. Hi, guys. So tonight is, we're starting.
Now we're going to start officially, really. Promise.
Tonight is testimony night. So Christine Mcdonald is going to be sharing her story tonight. We've known her for a long time. Yeah. And so we're really excited that she came out here tonight from Kansas City, and she's going to share how Jesus rescued her from just unimaginable things. I have never heard a testimony quite like hers. So if this does not give you hope that Jesus can save absolutely anyone, you're not listening. So that's what I have, and here she goes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're right in the middle. You're perfect.
Okay, perfect.
You're perfect.
So if you don't know this, I'm going to prep you. I am blind, meaning I cannot see. I don't know what the other definition is, but I get that asked a lot. So does that mean you can't see? Yes, that means I can't. I'm not oblivious. So I look for auditorial responses. So sometimes I don't know if you're walking out the door and I've done lost you. So I may crack a one-liner just to see if you're still in the room. It works for me. Okay, so I'm super excited to be here. I have known Jeremy and Mary. I don't know, maybe I feel like I met you guys in 2018-ish, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Sounds
It's been a
about
while.
right.
We've talked about this forever.
Yes, we have.
So I'm super excited to be here. And so I'm also a pastor, so I told Jeremy, I said, I won't preach, I promise. And so that should keep me more on task for time. And so you got to know where I've been to understand where God has brought me from. Yeah. So we'll start at the beginning. I was born. And, right? And we call that the book cover because we all have a story. And some people's stories are super dramatic, and some people's stories not so much. And then the people with not so much say, I don't have a story, so they never say anything. It's like, well, nobody's going to want to hear my story. Well, the reality is we all have a story, and that's the cover of our book. We're born, right? Magic, we're born. That's the cover of our book. We all enter the world, and here we are. And so my mother struggled with mental illness. She had delusional schizophrenia. And I was born, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I was born in the 60s, so I'm not young. and I feel like that's old enough. I'm not yet 60, but I'm definitely not 50. So that's old enough. So I'm old. And in the 60s, if you had a mental illness, you went to insane asylums, right? And my mom was pregnant with me in an asylum. And she went through electric shock because that's how we treated, schizophrenia back then. Medication has evolved tremendously. So my mom had 3 children prior to me, and they were 9, 7, and 5. Robbie, Ronnie, and Sheila. Okay, so there were 4 of us, and then along came me. Well, there were 3 of us, and along came me. When I was born, my mom was in an asylum undergoing electric shock therapy for her mental illness. And so that was where I was born. And then I was put in a hospital. I spent the first 18 months of my life in a hospital without being able to be held or touched or anything, right? Because I was born kind of messed up because of the medication and stuff my mom was on, right? And so I was already started off kind of like not real warm and fuzzy, didn't connect. I didn't have that nurturing, that love, that human touch, and that connection. So part of my system wasn't developed. So like my body was developed, but my innards weren't developed. So I spent all this time all by myself, not being able to be held, not being able to be touched, and my mom was in an insane asylum. Okay, so I come home at 2 for the first time. I leave the hospital. And my mom is very broken. And this caused a huge hole in my soul because I didn't understand as a kid, as things progressed, that my mother didn't have the capacity to be a mom and to give me love, right? And to nurture, right? She just didn't. It wasn't her fault. But I had some problems with that. That led to a whole lot of messy things, right? Because we're innately designed by our Creator for love, for community, for connection, right? And so I mean, that's just part of the model. Our parents nurture us, our parents love us, and I didn't get that. But my mom couldn't do that, and that caused a hole in my soul that I longed for. So at 3, my mom, so I've got my siblings, Robbie, Ronnie, and Sheila. They are 9, 7, and 5, and I'm 3. My mom had a breakdown. And by this time, my siblings had been in and out of the foster care multiple times. My mother did not know my father. She bounced around from bar to bar, and whoever took her home that night was where she slept that night. And she drug all of us with her. And so we were in and out of the foster care system. At 3, I was removed from the home for almost 2 years. And I had multiple broken bones. But at that time, my older siblings were removed and never returned again. I was the baby, so they gave my mom time to they call it family reunification. Not sure I'm a proponent of it. I've advocated for some reason in our country. 9 months is kind of the magic number for family reunification, you know? And that's just not enough time for some people to get it together, right? For stability. So they sent me back home, and I never saw my siblings again. So I was already a little disconnected because I didn't understand touch. I was already awkward with touch, you know, because I had been isolated for the first 18 months of my life. Now I've been abused, and I have multiple broken bones by the hands of my mom, right? And I never see my siblings again. Now, our little brains, you know, I don't have a whole lot of memories of this part of my life, right? I have a lot of documentation. I don't have a whole lot of memories. There's some pictures of me and my siblings together that my grandparents are like, we don't talk about them anymore. You know, when I got older, we were able to have conversations, but it was a hard thing, right? And so, I had a hole in my soul that I couldn't label, just like I had a hole in my soul about, you know, my mother, right? Didn't have language yet, right? Didn't understand. I mean, I'm just a kid. I'm going back. I get sent back to my mom. I never see my siblings again, and now I'm 5. My mom has another breakdown. This time, her breakdown, and family reunification. This time, her breakdown, we are in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and we were in the hood. And I don't know if y'all know much about the hoods, but at the hoods, like at every corner, there's a liquor store. I don't know. That's just how it is. Any city in America. Every hood, there's a liquor store on every corner because all the poor people are going to stay alcoholics. Right? I mean, I guess that's how we nurse our poverty. I don't know. But the liquor companies sure exploit it. I mean, it's a thing. And so there was this guy that was always in the parking lot. Now, I remember this guy. I was in kindergarten. I remember this guy. And he was always be in the parking lot at the liquor store, and he was always asking for change. And he drank Wild Irish Rose. So this guy, he was real nice. He would always say hello, and he was always real friendly. We'd always be picking up pennies in the parking lot. So my mom has this breakdown, and she thinks because of her delusional schizophrenia that I am going to hurt her. She couldn't help it. My mom had a mental illness. Like, it took me until I was in college, like, and in deep therapy before I understood, you know, some of these things, you know. And so here I am. My mom, she douses my bedroom curtains with gasoline. She locks me in my bedroom. Right after she sets the curtains on fire. And I'm in my bedroom screaming, crying. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to get out the bedroom door, and I'm yelling and screaming. And this neighborhood wino hears my cries, and he saves me, right? And I tell everybody, all alcoholics and addicts aren't bad people. Sometimes we just make really crummy choices, and sometimes we just have really crummy lives, and we don't have the skills to know how to deal with them, right? Because one saved my life when I was 5 years old, right? And so now I'm back in foster care, and my mom's institutionalized. Here we go again. And thanks to family reunification. Oh my God. Because we're trying to keep the family unit together. And my mom didn't want to lose the welfare check. I am 7 years old, and I'm back with my mom. And we are living in and out of cars, and we're bounced around. And I'm 8 years old. And my mom meets this guy, and he has a thing for pubescent little girls. And so my mom trades me for sex, basically, to this old guy for us to have stable housing. So we actually have a home for the first time that I can remember. But my mom's traded me for this guy who was a pervert for little kids. And you don't ever go back and be an 8-year-old after that.
Yeah.
And I was already a hot mess. Oh. So what does my 8-year-old brain do because it doesn't know how to deal with this? Because I've got multiple layers of complex trauma, right? I've got abuse, I've got neglect, and I've got multiple layers of complex. I start cutting. So I'm a cutter. I cut. That's what I do. And for years and years and years, I was told, write in big red letters, these words and what you're feeling, and you'll see the sign of blood, and it'll make you stop. I'm like, okay. Well, that never worked for me. Then it was, put these rubber bands around your wrist and just pinch them, and every time you want to cut, and write on these little love note bracelets. Every time you want to cut, you put these little flowers and things all around your wrist, and so you don't want to cut. Right? And I was always told, this is what you do, this is what you do. Later, many years, I'm lecturing at the New York School of Medicine on trauma. And the lecturer right before me is talking about why people do self-harm and how when we cut, when we do self-harm because we've been affected by trauma, what happens is the place in your brain where you're stuck in this emotional pain cannot exist at the same magnitude simultaneously when the brainstem kicks in. So when we cut, right, or self-harm, we're engaging the brainstem. And that little part of your brain that keeps us so emotional and we're hurting so bad has to defuse. I'm like, well, that makes so much sense. Well, why didn't somebody tell me that I was 8 years old? Because I'm a logical kind of gal. They didn't even tell me that therapy. So I go around and tell people all the time when I'm working with victims, like, here, darling, let's talk about why this makes you feel better. Because when we understand why we do what we do, then we can do something about what we're doing. Right? It just makes sense. What? So you're the psychologist, so you keep it a secret? That doesn't fix us. Like, we can work with the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Right? So, but my little 8-year-old brain didn't know how to do it, and I started cutting. And when I was cutting, y'all, that was like my secret. I didn't want anybody to know. And y'all gotta know, I was such a messed up kid. I used to go hide in the locker, and I'd go get up under the desk in the classroom where there were no kids and try to hide from everybody. I didn't know how to socialize. I didn't know how to engage. You wouldn't know it now. And I wasn't a very likable kid. Let's just say that. I was that weird, odd kid. Usually my clothes were dirty. Rarely did my shoes match. They usually didn't fit. My clothes were never washed. Right? I was just this. And I had this great big gap in my teeth. You put your whole finger there. Oh my God. So the kids made fun of me everywhere I went. I was just that kid, right? I was that lost, broken kid, right? And so as much as I wanted to keep this a secret, I wanted somebody to just notice and say, are you okay?
Yeah.
Right? It's really funny. When I wrote my first book, Cry Purple, which was like 10, 12 years ago, Facebook, it connects us with so many people. My second grade teacher is my Facebook friend. She's like, I read that book. She's like, we used to sit in the teacher's lounge and talk about you, trying to figure out how do we connect with her, what could be wrong with her. And I was so angry from this as I read it, and I said, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you try to connect with me? You might have been the very person I was willing to talk to and open up to, right? That could have changed the rest of my destiny, right? So why would you talk about me instead of to? She said, we didn't know what to say. Right? And that's why I love going in and talking to foster parents and school guidance counselors and things like that. What does it look like to have a kid impacted by trauma, and how do we connect with them, right? That's why it's so important to break these cycles. We're really good friends now. I mean, I was in my feelings. Like, what? You know? I was in my feelings. I'm a little less dramatic today. Praise be to God. So here I am. We moved around a lot. My mom's in and out of the system. I've got this horrible secret that I don't want anybody to know, but yet I want somebody to know. And so now I'm like 10 years old. We're still bouncing around. We still have nowhere stable to live. And it's just, the cycle just continues. So you get the picture. So now I'm in the 7th grade. I've been to 21 different schools. I know my ABCs. I know my 1, 2, 3s. And I know how to write my name, but I'm illiterate. Right? It's funny because today I'm a published author. Right? Because God restores, right? Right. And so, when here I am, and I've been in and out of the foster system, I get sent to a juvenile facility in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So there was this little girl named Pam. I met Pam when I was in the 2nd grade. And we were in the same foster home for a while. And she was a little black girl. Now, in this home, the black girls were not allowed to play with the white girls because they were black and we were white. I'm like, she's not black, she's pink, like me. And so, so she was my friend. So we would go to school together. We were in the same class because we were the same age and we were in the same grade. So we would sit together because we were those kids, right? And so here I am. I run away from home, and I am in a juvenile facility waiting for the judge to decide if he's going to send me back home or put me in another home. And Pam's there. Right? I'm so excited. Oh, my gosh, it's my friend. Now, by this time, I've been in dozens of foster homes. I've been in a couple of group homes. I've been in the juvenile justice system. So I've learned a lot of ways to survive and hustle. Right? And so her and I, we were the 2 oldest girls on the floor. And so what we used to do is sneak out down the fire escape. Because we were in the hood. And so we would sneak down the fire escape and we would go out. And so there was a track by us. And so the guys, the old guys, the ones with gray hair, which probably aren't so old now, they would pick us. Just saying. The lady at the hair place yesterday, she's like, "You're how old? You sound so young." She's like, "I'm the same age as you." And she's like, "Just listen to me." I said, "Do you smoke cigarettes?" She's like, "What?" I said, "Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't see how old you look." I said, "But you sound old. You sound like rats." I said, "I ain't never smoked a cigarette." I said, "That's probably why I sound so much younger." Because that hasn't been my life choices, that's for sure. So here I am with Pam. We run down. The guys pick us up. So this is what we learned. And we learned this at a group home together. And we used to hustle over there together. If you get in the car, the old guy will pick you up because you're young and cute, right? And they'll pull out their wallet because we can run faster than them. So we snatch the money and we run. Right? That's what we would do. That's what we would do. And then we would come back in. We'd take turns. Like one night she'd go and I'd watch. The next night I'd go and she'd watch for me. And what we would do, because we were the oldest girls, is we would give the money to the little girls and the little boys that were younger than us so they could buy caffeine like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and candy bars. And they would get spun out on sugar and make the guards crazy. And it was our entertainment because we were horrible kids.
So benevolent.
I was a terrible child. Don't tell anybody. You haven't heard about me being arrested 103 times. I know. Wait till I get you the good stuff. And then one night the guard comes in. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And she tells me to get dressed. Now, where this facility is, we're still in protective custody waiting for a judge to make a decision. Do we go to a foster home? Do we stay where we're at? Or do we get reunified? By this time, they're probably not going to reunify me anymore, because I'm considered a delinquent, right? And so, where we were at was connected to downtown. It was in downtown Oklahoma City, and there was this big old catwalk, those real pretty glass hallways, and you could look down at the cars. They drive under you, and it was connected to the Children's Mercy Hospital. Because they were the ones that always had to inspect our bodies to make sure when we come in that we don't have any new scars or bruises or injuries from our families. And we walk across the catwalk, and I got no idea what's going on. I just know Pam has it back, and they're taking me across, and who's going to let her back in the window? Right? And we get on the elevator, and we go down, and we walk into a room. And Pam had gotten in a car. She had real pretty long braids with those real pretty sparkly beads. And I loved her hair. She loved mine. She loved my hair. She'd always be braiding my hair. And She was probably the first human connection that I made in my life, like a friend. And the guy had grabbed her by her braids as she tried to run out with her $10 bill. And he brutally raped her, and he left her there to die. He had severed her wrist with a glass from the alley, and she died.
Oh, God.
Yeah. The first human connection I had, and probably the first heartbreak I ever had. And she was a person that I identified with, right? And I trusted, my safe person. And nobody cared. We were disposable people. We were disposable kids. Who cares about kids like us? Nobody. That's why we're in the system, right? So this is what I decided in that moment. All the anger and rage that I had was just multiplied. And I was already not very nice. I was really not very nice. I was like, you're not putting me back in the system. You're not doing anything. You're not protecting me. You're not protecting us. And you're not sending me back to my mom. I'm done. I am better off with my own individual survival skills than I am with anything you people can offer me. So I'm 15 years old. This is my best thinking. Now, I don't know about y'all. Any of y'all got teenagers? Now, how much best thinking a 15-year-old got? Yeah, that would be me. I didn't leave with the peanut. I could have stolen some peanut butter sandwiches. I could have taken a change of clothes. I could have grabbed a coat. It was in the middle of the winter, but no. Nothing. And just set out on my own. I got this. Found an abandoned house, and I'm like, this is going to be my spot. This abandoned house, I scope out the neighborhood. There's a nice little alley. I can come in the back door. I just don't want anybody to see me, so nobody will call the police, so I don't get sent back to the system. All right, that's my goal. That's my goal. It's cold. So I get in this abandoned house, and I'm crawling around on the floor, so nobody will see me walking in. I'm crawling around, I sleep on the floor. There's running water, but there's no heat, right? No electricity. So I sleep on the floor. And I stay there for about 5 days, and finally I'm like, well, I gotta have a shower. I gotta eat, so I gotta figure out something. So I take off walking. Scoping out the neighborhood. What am I gonna do? You know, I got this plan. Y'all. So my plan is, I got this fake name. My fake name is gonna be Stacy. Stacy is because everywhere I went, Stacy was that cheerleader girl.
Oh.
You know, that one girl. Everybody knows the girl I'm talking about. Everybody loves her. Miss Congeniality. Right? Has all the friends. You know, the cool kid. Everything that I wasn't, I was going to be Stacy. That was my goal. I was going to be Stacy. So, and I was going to be grown up. I was going to be 19. Right? Because I don't want to get caught. Right? Now, way back then, because y'all remember, I'm old. I was born in the 60s. So you could be 13 and get a job without your parents, right? So this is my plan. I'm going to use my fake name and my fake age, and I'm going to give myself a job. I'm going to give you a paycheck, because I don't know. You got to go to the bank and cash it. You got to have an ID. There's all these other things that my 15-year-old brain just doesn't know. But this is my plan. So I stay out of the system. That's my plan, because I can keep me safe without any bells count. That's my plan. My best thinking. So I take off walking, and guy pulls up beside me and said, hey, you need a lift? I'm like, sure. So, y'all, this was one of the old gray-haired guys again. I don't know if y'all see a pattern. This is an old gray-haired guy, and he's smoking a pipe. Oh, God, that stink. But it was in the middle of the winter, and I felt the warmth. And I hadn't eaten in 5 days. I was hungry, and I needed a shower. Right? I'd been crawling around on the floor, trying to not get caught. I was hungry. I was cold. And I felt the warmth from that car, and I'm like, sure. So I got in, and he's like, you know, I've got my knees, my pants are dirty because I've been crawling, my hands are dirty. I've been crawling around the floor. He's like, you hungry? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, let's go get some food. I'm like, bet. Right? He's like, you know what? I got a room right up the road. How about we take you over there and you can clean up and I'll wash your clothes? I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. Bet. Right? So I go to this hotel room with this guy. And I go in the bathroom, you know, because my best thinking, y'all, I take off my clothes and I throw them out so he can go throw them in the washer at the hotel. Now, this hotel was real pretty, y'all. Had real pretty emerald green carpet and real pretty curtains. It wasn't super swanky, but it was a lot swankier than anywhere my mama had ever had us. It was a La Quinta Inn, so let's don't get excited. It was not the Ritz-Carlton. It was the Quintin. But that was the swankiest hotel I had ever been in. If that gives you an idea of the kind of places that my mom had us living in, right? And so I throw my clothes out, and I get in the shower, wash my hair, and I come out, and I'm like, I wrap my hair up in a towel, and I wrap me up in a towel, and I'm standing in the bathroom going, wait a minute, I don't have any clothes. What am I supposed to do now? I told you, I'm 15. I'm doing my best thinking. I'm just trying to survive, right? I'm just trying to not be in the system. And so I open the door, and I'm like, hello? And I come out, and this guy looks at me, and he looks me in the eye, and he says, you are absolutely beautiful. And I'd never heard that in my entire life. Right? I've been that throwaway, disposable kid my whole life. And as weirdly, uncomfortably awkward as it was in that moment, it felt so good to have somebody see me as special. Right? I mean, what little girl doesn't want to hear it? I mean, like, I didn't get the little 3-year-old running around with a frilly dress and, oh, isn't she cute? I didn't get her that mess. Right? And he's like, you're so beautiful. I would love to take a picture of you so I can capture your beauty. And I know, hey, Facebook Live folks, I know I'm making you crazy. Y'all won't be the first. So, as awkward and uncomfortable as it was, he says, I would like to take a picture. So, I'm sure a lot of you all are younger than me. But back in the day, and I know they've reinvented these things. We had these Polaroid cameras, and you would take it, you had to hold it here for like 10 minutes, and then you just wait and wait and wait. Like, it ain't like the new instant Polaroid cameras, like, bam, there's 4 pictures in like 2 seconds. No. Not that kind of party.
Wait a minute.
The pill. Yeah. Those, yeah, she's my age. So, he didn't touch me. He didn't touch me. No, he didn't. We took pictures of me. He's like, I'm going to go get your clothes. And he goes and gets the clothes, and he comes back, and he gives it to me, and I go in the bathroom. Now I feel really weirdly, awkwardly uncomfortable. But at the same time, I feel special. Right? Somebody took an interest in me. I go in the bathroom, I put on my clothes, I come back out, now they're all fresh and clean. Now he's done fed me, I got a shower, I got clean clothes, and he told me I was beautiful. Right? So I got just an itty bitty bit of me feeling like, wow. Right? Just for a minute I felt special. I come out and he's gone, y'all. He done left me. I come out and he's gone. And there's $40 on the nightstand. I know this is the room's yours. I put the money in my pocket. I headed down to Piggly Wiggly. I got me some peanut butter, a loaf of bread, some Pepsi Cola, and some Snickers bars because I was going back to my abandoned house and I wasn't going to be hungry. Meanwhile, I'm scoping out the neighborhood and looking for a place to apply for a job. So now, here I am walking back to my abandoned house. This guy rolls up beside me. I'm telling you, I was in a shady neighborhood, okay, y'all? This guy pulls up beside me. He says, hey, you need a lift? I said, nah, I'm good. I'm looking for work. He says, you're looking for work? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, you're in luck. I'm like, I am. He's like, yeah, you see this here thrifty nickel? How many of y'all know what a thrifty nickel is? I do. Yeah, y'all, what kind of people? Do you know how many people like us? He's like, you see this here thrifty nickel? He says, you see that ad right there, that ad. That's my company, that's my ad. I'm the boss. Yeah. I'm looking for workers. I'm like, really? So what am I thinking? I'm Stacy. I'm 19. I'm looking for a job, and one just fell in my lap. That's what I'm thinking. It's like, okay. He's like, so what's your name? And I'm like, Stacy. Stacy Carr. Stacy, because, well, y'all know why Stacy. But Carr, because he was in a car, and I hadn't figured that much of this out. I hadn't gotten that far in my best thinking. And, of course, I was 19. He says, look, darling, look. Why don't you go to work for me for a couple days? If you hate it, you'll lose nothing. You'll have a few extra bucks cash in your pocket, and I'll drop you back off wherever you want to go. And if you love it, you got yourself a job. I'm like, that was easy. And he's like, well, well, do you want to go pick up your stuff? I'm like, no, I'm good. I mean, I didn't want to say, well, we're going to go to the abandoned house down the street and I'm going to grab my loaf of peanut butter. You know what I'm saying? Nah. But I'm pretty sure he knew what was up.
Yeah.
So I went to his house and he did. He had a job. My job was to go, y'all, this was my job. I was to go, so he had all these coolers and they had these beautiful roses of all these different colors and I had to wrap them in tissue, put a little bow around them, put them in these baskets. My job was to go into honky tonks. I don't know if y'all noticed, I have an accent. Don't tell nobody. But my job was to go into these honky tonks and say, excuse me, sir, would you like to buy the lovely lady a flower? That's all I had to do. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm riding this till the wheels fall off. Right? So I'd go into the honky tonks, I'd sell the flowers, I'd get a bunch of cash, I'd give it to him, and I'd go to the next honky tonk and do it all over again. That was my job. I had my own room, I had a whole closet full of clothes, and now, look y'all, there was all kinds of clothes. Like, he taught me how to walk in high heel shoes. He never touched me. He was never inappropriate. He never asked me about myself, so I didn't have to make nothing else up because I wasn't very good at it, so that was a good thing. And so I was like, well, yeah, I'm right. This is the wheels fall off. You know? So then I started going to strip clubs. My job was to go into the guys that were tipping the girls on stage and selling like bottles of perfume and cute little trinkets and things like that. Those stuff, some of y'all guys been to strip clubs. Come on now. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That was my new job. And I got this. So now he's kind of normalizing this culture. I'm going in and I'm selling these little trinkets. There's all these bright lights and this music, and guys are telling me how cute I am. Right? So he tells me, hey, I got something for you. And he gives me an envelope. I open it up. And in this envelope, y'all, there's a picture ID. And that picture ID, y'all, so see, I didn't know a whole lot. I didn't know about DMV and birth certificates and all that other stuff. Because I wasn't super smart. I mean, I pretty messed up. But I opened that up. It had Stacy Carr, said I was 19. It had my picture, y'all. I didn't go nowhere. Holy smokes. And my 50-year-old thinking is like, oh, yeah, I pulled the wool over his eyes. Right? Told you my best thinking got me in a whole lot of trouble. And he's like, look, I got to go out of town for work. I'm going to be gone. Now, by now, I've been rolling with this for like 4 months, right? Dang. Guy ain't touched me, ain't asked me no questions, right? It's like, easy peasy. Now I ain't got a penny in my pocket. Right? But it's okay. I will ride to the woods. I'm staying under the radar. That's all I cared about. Didn't want to get back in the system. I didn't want to stay home, right? So he's like, hey, I'm going to be out of town. I'm called out. I'm going to be gone for several months. But I care about you, and you're a great employee, and I want to look out for you, darling. So I called my brother, because that's the kind of guy I am, and he's going to look after you. So he says, we're going to go meet him. We're going to go have lunch. We went to a Western Sizzling. I know y'all don't have those around no more, but I used to love me a good Western Sizzling, baked potato and steak. Oh, my gosh. He introduced me to his brother. Now, his brother, he told me his name was Rocky. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, I don't think his name was Rocky, just like I wasn't Stacy, because I've yet to meet a man named Rocky. I mean, there may be, I don't know, but I ain't met one yet, and I've been to a lot of places. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't his brother. Pretty sure both of them lied to me about their name as much as I was lying about mine. And for $2,500, he sold me. This man owned the clubs I had been going in, the strip clubs that I had been going in and selling the trinkets. So they were normalizing this culture for $2,500. So I was groomed by the guy who befriended me to simply sell flowers and honky tonks. And then I was sold to the man that owned the clubs I was going in for adult entertainment, selling the trinkets at. And now I belong to this man. Now I know this stuff. Like, I'm just trying to not be in the system. And I was sold until I was 17 and a half in the back rooms of VIP clubs of Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Coffeyville, Kansas. The only nude club at that time in the United States of America. Yeah. When I went home with him that night, I didn't know what had happened yet. I still didn't know. I mean, I was like, cool, bet. So we walk into his house, and he has to test the goods, and the goods are me. Right? I'm locked in a room. He comes in the next day and he throws me a bunch of stage makeup, says, clean yourself up, cover up them bruises, and here's your new outfit, get dressed, because you're going to work.
Oh, boy.
Right? So I was introduced to cocaine. Back then it was freebasing, because, then it became crack. But back then it was freebasing. And I was introduced to it. And what I learned about it is if I got high before the guys did what they were going to do, I didn't feel or think about what they were going to do. And if I did it when they were done, I didn't think about what they had just done or what I had just done. So somewhere in the mess of that, I became a full-blown addict. Right? And that's how I dealt with it. Sometimes we'd go back to his house and there would be a number of men that had paid for my services. There was a lock on the door. I wasn't even allowed to pee by myself. At 17 and a half, they escort me off the property because now I'm a full-blown addict. I am not bringing in the money because I am non-compliant, because I am an addict that needs her addiction fed. Right? Like, I am in the dressing room. They are calling my name on stage, and I am hitting the pipe, and they come in, and they're banging and saying, you need to come on out of here. And I reach up and flip the light out like I'm busy. So they kicked me on up out of there. They escorted me at gunpoint, told us never let you see again. And, or we'll kill you. And I had no reason to doubt that. I didn't know what city I was in. I didn't know what town I was in. I didn't even know what year it was. Like, I got nothing. And as y'all know, gentlemen clubs are in city neighborhoods. So a guy pulls up beside me and says, hey, where are you heading? I'm like, I don't know. He says, well, I'm heading to Iowa. I'm like, the potato state? And he says, darling, that'd be Idaho. I'm like, oh. Iowa and Oklahoma sound a lot alike. Not interested. Do you pass any big cities between here and there? And he says, well, Kansas City's the halfway point. I said, Kansas City? That's like Chicago. Can I go? He's like, sure. So he drops me off in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Any of y'all from Kansas City been to Restart, know anything about Jurassic Park, Independence Avenue, and just all that craziness? Well, that's the heart of the hood. I mean, that's Hooker Haven. Drop me off in the heart of the belly of the beast. And here I was, I had hair down to my kneecaps. And I had a southern drawl. They said I talk funny. And I was very skimpily dressed. Let's just say that. And I had no possessions to my name, so it didn't take long for a guy to say, girl, you're not safe out here. Let me look after you. So he takes me home with him. And he's a drug dealer and a pimp. And he's like, so he's asking me all these questions. He gives me a place to stay for a few days. And then, like, 7 days in, he's like, well, guess what, darling? Here's your bill. And I spent the next 17 years being bought and sold in hotels, on Independence Avenue, street corners, truck stops, you name it, I've done it. Back pages, you name it, I've done it. And so in that, how much time I got left?
Plenty. We're self-employed.
Whatever you want.
Are y'all going to leave me? Am I boring you? Okay. As long as y'all stay with me. Now, if I lose you and I'm boring you, say, okay, Christine, that's enough. I will not personalize it, I promise. I won't personalize nothing tonight. So, here I am. I got arrested 103 times. No. And can you believe the corner that I spent most of that 17 years on? There was a church. There wasn't just one. There were three churches. One on the corner I worked, one across from the corner I worked, and one across from the corner I worked. Three. I still spent 17 years on that corner. I think Jesus' people had plenty of opportunity to do kingdom work with me. They missed the mark. Hence is why I wrote my book, Same Kind of Human.
Right.
They missed the mark. So,
At the wrong times, I'm guessing. Just different times.
I'm just thankful y'all are staying with me because I've got a lot of caffeine today. I didn't get much sleep last night, and I went and visited a friend from the streets who, when she left the life, so this is a rabbit hole for a second. She was on the streets with me, and she was 15 when she got on the streets. And she got off the streets. When her pimp went, she called me, and I was in St. Louis at the time. She was still in Kansas City. She said, Nito, that was her pimp at the time, and I worked for him for a short period of time. before I got out of life, and she's like, Nitho just went to feds. Where do I go? I can't stay here in Kansas City. And I got her into St. Louis. She got clean. I got her into a program. She got clean, right? She got into drug court. Got her life together. She just celebrated 7 years clean. But, not, well, she got shot. Yeah, she got shot 5 days ago. Right, she got shot 5 days ago, and unfortunately the bullet severed her spinal cord. Yeah, she's never going to walk again. Right? I know, right? It's like, wait. No! But anyway, yeah, so, I mean, just side note. So I spent today with her. I went to her drug court graduation. I was on the streets with her. I mean, like, I visited her when she was in jail. I mean, I've been on this whole journey since she was 15. Right? And so, yeah. So, anyway, so I had a lot of caffeine to try to make me feel better. Right? So anyway, I'm sorry I took you down that rabbit trail, but I mean, the reality is stuff still happens whether we're clean, whether we're following Jesus, no matter what we're doing, life still happens, y'all. We just have Jesus to lean into to help us carry through, and a lot of people don't have that privilege, right? So we don't have to carry all that weight, we don't have to carry all that pain, and I'm very hopeful and prayerful that this helps her grow a lot closer to Jesus, you know, in this time. Anyway, so sorry about the rabbit hole, but I am kind of spun out on caffeine. More so than usual. So you gotta have some kind of ice. So I had her through arrests. A lot of my arrests were like for homelessness, for vagrancy, for prostitution, you know, just all that kind of stuff. I had a few drug charges. I've been to prison 7 times. I did 17 months in a one-man cell. I'm going to tell you, you do 17 months in isolation without any conversation with human beings and only getting out for 15 minutes every third day to take a shower if there's a guard to watch you. Right? It'll change you. You know, I mean, because I gotta be really honest, when I was on the streets, I was not a very nice person, and so they had to put me somewhere where I wasn't in fights all the time. You know, but it will change a person. But there was something familiar about that, and I think that's because of my childhood when I was born and I was isolated. You know, so there was some comfort in that isolation at the same time, right? But it really put me further and further away from connecting with people around me. Then I went down and did 5.5 years in prison. It was the longest stint immediately after my 17 months. So I was locked up for a while. I didn't play well with others, and that's just the reality. I tried to get out a few times. I'm going to talk a little about this. I tried to get out a few times. One time, I had this trick. So that's a buyer of sex. He was a regular. We call him a closet-smoking white boy. Why? Because he was some swanky attorney from Kansas that was always on TV. He had a wife. He had kids. He always had these commercials. But every couple months, he was a closet-smoking white boy. Every couple months, he would come down to the hood, and he would look, hey. So my street name was Ellie Mae. I'm sure that surprises y'all. But he would pay people to find me, and my job was to go get him dope, right? Because I wouldn't sell him soap because I knew he was going to spend about $5,000, and I was going to get a hotel room and get a shower for a few days. And he never wanted to have sex. He never wanted anything in exchange. He just didn't want to get his money stolen. He couldn't go to the dope house and buy dope without getting ganked. And so he didn't want anything from me. And so it was one of those things, we call that a safe buyer, right? And, you know, we look forward to those guys that aren't going to hurt us, right? Right? And so he would pay people, where's Ellie, you know? And so he was my regular for a really long time. So finally one day, and every time he'd come, we'd go get a hotel. He'd pay for it like 3 or 4 days. And when his money was gone, he would leave. There was a couple of days left. I would get it, and I'd get to be by myself. It was always nice. He would always feed me, and he would always let me go buy a change of clothes, right? And I would go pick up hygienes and things like that and clean up. It was really nice. So I felt human for a few minutes. But he's like, you know, Ellie, you clean up real nice. You ever thought about going to treatment? I'm like, treatment? What's that? He's like, well, that's where people go and, like, get off drugs. I'm like, so you got a wife, you got a swanky car, you're on TV, like, every hour on the hour. You own, like, 50 bazillion houses. You think I need to go to treatment? I'm in the poor. Ain't that the pot called the kettle black? I mean, like, who needs help here, really? Like, this has been my whole life. You ever thought about treatment? Right? I'm telling y'all, it was not easy. Well, one year, he finally, it was hot. And my pimp had just broken several of my ribs. And I was pretty battered. And I had just been stabbed and left for dead at the Missouri River just a few weeks before. And I was healing from that when my pimp got out of jail, and I didn't have any money to square up when he got released from jail. And so I took a beating. And so here he comes. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's my guy. Let's jump in here. Right? And so I get in the car. We go get a hotel. And I'm like, you know what? Tell me more about that treatment. He says, well, you're probably going to have to go to detox. I'm like, well, what's detox? He says, well, that's where you get clean, and then they put you in treatment, and blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, well, where's that place at? He said, well, I'll take you down there. I'm like, really? Now, he done just smoked $6,000 of crack cocaine with me. He's going to drop me off a detox, and he's going to go face the wife. Good luck with that. I think my job was a lot easier. So I get into this detox, so I'm all hyped up, right? I'm excited. Like, I've been jacked up my whole life, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. This was back in the early 90s. I'm doing this. I'm excited. I'm hyped up. So I ring the little buzzer. It's like, I'm here for detox. And so she comes to the door, and she's like, well, yeah, step right inside here. I'm like, yes. And she's like, hands me this little square thing with this little hose coming out of it. She says, could you blow in that for me? I'm like, what is that? So, wait, what is this for? She says, well, this is to test your level of alcohol. I'm like, alcohol? I don't drink. Are you kidding me? I just smoke crack. She said, well, if you don't drink, do you do heroin? I'm like, I just told you the only drug. I've never even smoked pot. No, I don't do heroin. I've got standards. And she's like, if you cannot blow numbers, we can't take you in detox. And I'm like, what? I finally got the courage, like, year after year, and here I am. Are you serious right now? So, I take off walking because, that's all they would take. I could get an indigent bed because I ain't got insurance. Like, I ain't never had an ID. Like, I ain't never had a place to live. I ain't never had a job. I'm finally trying to get help, and they're like, so I take off walking because that's kind of my thing. God pulls up beside me and says, hey, y'all see the pattern? I like this group. And he says, you need a lift? I got $20. I'm like, bet. So I turn a trick. I don't know we're in church, but this is a real truth. Like, and I bet there's a whole bunch of y'all relate to what I'm talking about here. So I turn a trick, and there's a Golden Gate Liquors about 5 blocks from this detox center. And I said, could you drop me off at the liquor store, please? Okay, y'all, so I go into Golden Gate Liquors, and let me tell you what, okay? There was this guy that worked there, and he was hot. He was Italian, and so those Italians, they got that nice little tan when they smile, their teeth are real white. Oh, he was so cute! And I walked up to him and I said, excuse me, if you don't drink, but you need to drink because you're trying to go to detox. I mean, I just want to go to treatment, but they won't let me because I couldn't blow in this thingamajiggity. What would you recommend I purchase? And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, well, of course I am. So he introduced me to malt liquor, y'all. Colt 44. 45, that's it. Yeah. See, I still don't drink. That is not the thing to drink when it's 103 degrees in downtown Kansas City, Missouri in the middle of July, and you gotta walk 6 blocks if you've never drunk before in your life. So I drink this thing, and I walk back to the detox, and I push the buzzer. And I said, I think I can do your thingamajiggy now. And I blow in the thing, and I puke all over her, the poor lady. Serves her right. So they let me into detox. Right? They let me into detox, and I do my 5 days in detox, and they do this little screening. They ask you all these questions, and of course I don't have any insurance. Where do you live? In the park, you know. I've been homeless for like a bazillion of five, well, my whole life, you know. So we do all this. So she gives me a little sticky note, and it has a little date on it, and it has a time. And she says, now I want you to understand on this time here, you have a 45-minute window of grace. If you're not here on this date at this time, we will forfeit your bed. I'm like, so am I supposed to put this on my tree in the park? Like, I don't even know what year it is, and you want me to keep track of what month and day it is? Really? How's that supposed to work for me? Right? She's like, I'm sorry. I mean, that's just how it is. Needless to say, I didn't make treatment. That's right. So back on the back on the block. And so I make up my money and you know, deal with my guy. I try again to go to treatment. So I try to go to treatment. My pain being really bad. And I get out of the hospital, and I'm trying to get some resources through the homeless center. So I go to the homeless center, and you know, they say, hey, we're going to put you in this place. So I go to this place. Well, they decide that I might have some trauma. Go bigger. So they put me on this medication that made me suicidal because I've like never been on medication before. And the medication, it was called Paxil at the time. It had just come out. I know it's super popular now. Now they know they don't give it to people that don't have depression because it'll make you suicidal. Well, they gave it to me and I didn't have depression. It made me suicidal. And so I'm in this homeless shelter, and they're going to try to give me some mental health services, and then they're going to get me into treatment. And I'm like, oh, and I had to fold laundry. So I'm like, okay, I can do this, I think. So I get on this Paxil stuff, and so, like, and I have no explanation for it, so I start cutting. So I'm walking down the hallway, and my arms are, like, bleeding everywhere, and they're like, yeah, you got to go. So they send me to the mental health facility. They do a 24, 74-hour, 96-hour, like, keep me, and they chalk it all up to the, it's like, no, I don't want to die. Look, I'm trying to get clean. And so they chalk it all up to the Paxil. They said, oh, you should have never been put on Paxil. I was like, well, really?
Right.
Yo, the professionals. I'm just a junkie. Like, really? Like, I'm just trying to get help, and y'all are jacking me up. And so the homeless shelter wouldn't let me come back. Right? Right. So then I got into another program. I tried one more time. Like, I tried one more time. And my addiction counselor thought I was hot.
Oh, boy.
He took me to dinner and bought me tacos. Then he sent me flowers.
Yeah.
Then I found myself locked in my apartment. I had an apartment for 3 whole weeks. First place I ever had in my whole life. I got a voucher, and I was going to be in this program, and they were going to give me all this help, and it was going to work. And he shows up at my apartment at night, right? And all I could think about is my body. He's not here to help me. The only thing valid that anybody sees in me, even these like professionals, I'm trying to get help, is my body, my sexuality, right? All these people have used me on the streets, and here I am, these professionals, it's the same thing, right? So I locked myself in the closet. He's beating on the door, and I don't know what to do. And when he's gone, I finally leave, and I'm like, I go back to the hood, and everyone's like, girl, where you been? I'm like, man, I'm trying to get clean, but like my caseworker was like trying to like put the moves on me. And like, I just don't want to use, and I want to be better, and I don't know how to be better, and those people are worse than y'all. Like, I at least know what I'm dealing with here. So I never tried again. So I'm in and out of prison, and I'm sure y'all getting tired of this. So let's fast forward kind of to what my last days on the street. So I get out of prison. I try to go to this agency. They tell me, you come back in 2 weeks, we'll give you a caseworker. So now my strategy to try to not be back in the life is reentry services. We're supposed to help people in prison get a job. So maybe this is, maybe that other stuff isn't going to work. So years are passing, and I'm still trying here and there, right? And I keep getting told that I'm a throwaway. I'm not worth it, right? And society is still validating it because I'm just purchasable. I'm just an object, right? And the system is just validating something that I'd already internalized as a little kid. And so here I am. I go to this place, and they tell me to come back in 2 weeks, and I'll get a caseworker. And the caseworker tells me, Ms. McDonald, you're illiterate. You've never had a job. No 7th grade education. You've been in and out of the system since you were 3. The chances of your success are so small, we would exhaust enough resources that we could help a dozen people with what it would take to help you make it. And your chances of success are so slim, our donors are not going to let us take a risk. And I'm like, so if I had help, I could get help. But because I don't have help, I'm not worth the help. That's what you're telling me. Needless to say, I went and got some crack and smoked in her office. In front of her. I was clean. I was fresh out of prison. I was motivated. Right? And I went right back to the streets. She called my PO, told him I was smoking crack in her office. I'm like, yeah. I was like, smoke this. You know? And I'm sitting on the church steps. Like I told you, there's 3 churches. That's not a lie. There were really 3 churches on the corner I worked. And there was a food pantry. There was this little Christian place on 9th Street. We could go down there and eat sometimes. Now you get there in time to hear the preaching. So you had to get preached at. And we would get told that we were sinners, we were going to burn in hell, we were horrible, horrible, terrible people. Like we didn't already know. I mean, we're at the food pantry. Right? Are you kidding me right now? I don't need you to remind me that my life is crap. I'm in a food bank getting a sandwich. Then you tell me how awful I am. But nobody ever told me that Jesus died for me in spite of me. Nobody told me the love story of Jesus and the hope. And nobody gave me a solution. Okay, so I'm horrible and filthy, and I'm going to burn in hell. Well, give me another option. But that never happened. So we avoided going there as much as we could. But if you didn't get there in time to hear how horrible you were, you couldn't get a sandwich. Right? I mean, like literally, like no shoes, no shirts. You came without shoes, you didn't get a sandwich. I'm freaking homeless. How are you not going to say, wait, what? Yeah, like, it's some crazy stuff. Good Christians meaning well. Right? Right? So, here I am on these steps. So I had no belief in God. I had no understanding of God. Didn't believe there was a God because my friends were murdered left and right. You know, those kind of things just happen to people like us. And society had already told me how disposable I was and how much they didn't care. Right? And this is where I deserved to be, as far as I was concerned. But I was like, okay, God, whoever you are, if you exist and if you're real, take my life. Let this be the last day that I'm paid for. And I'm sure a lot of us, right, we get to those kind of bottoms, and that's what brings us to places like this, to hear crazy people like me. Right? Right? We all have that hopelessness, that bottom that is everything, and we just want it to hurt to stop. Yeah. Right? And so it's broad daylight, and this little truck, little engine whining, it turns a corner, he smiles real pretty. I'm gonna tell you something, evil doesn't have to look like evil, because it's a lot easier to dress evil up real pretty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a lot easier to sell the package. So he smiled real nice, waved at me, flashed his brake lights, so I knew he wanted me. So I walked down the end of the block, jumped in. He gave me $50. Put the money in my shoe, went down the railroad tracks, and we parked. He came around the side of the truck, and that was broad daylight. We're talking 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? He pulls me out of the truck, and he beats me in here. And y'all already know, I've been branded by a cattle iron, right? I mean, I've been through some stuff. I've been held at gunpoint, dig my own shallow grave, like dirt being poured on top of me. Praise be to God that they got spooked and ran off before they killed me. I've been stabbed and left for dead in this dirt. I've been through a lot of things, y'all. and it started in my childhood. And not saying I ain't done some stuff, because I did steal a lady's car who left her engine running in the middle of the winter, and I had to be 8 blocks down the street. She was dropping her baby off at daycare, but that engine was running, and I didn't have no shoes, and I only had 4 minutes to get down there. I drove at A blocks down the street. I put the keys under the edge of the floor mat. I left the car. I didn't even go through the cubbies, y'all. I just borrowed it. So I'm not completely innocent in all things, all right? So just please understand, I've done my share. I mean, I did steal an unmarked police car, and I climbed up in a tree and watched the helicopters looking for me and smoked crack into my hood. Like, I've done my stuff. They never look up, y'all. They just never look up. Like, so just understand, I've done my share of stuff. Okay, so I've been a victim, and I've been through a lot of stuff, but I've done my share of stuff, so I don't want you to think that I'm saying that, oh, that poor girl. I've done my share of stuff. Okay, so I just want to get out of there. So, he beats me, and he rapes me, and he beats me, and it goes on for hours. Now, I'm nodding out of consciousness. It's super hot. I'm exhausted. I weighed about 89 pounds. If y'all look in Cry Purple, you can see some of my old mug shots. He gets a gun, and he tells me to get on my knees and to give him a reason to let me live. And I couldn't. I was shaking. I was trembling. He beat me. I mean, he was wearing work boots, and he beat me. He beat me like I was a grown man. And I couldn't. And so he grabbed me by my ponytail, and he balanced me on my knees, and he held the gun to my head. And he told me how horrible I was, how filthy and disgusting I was, and how I didn't deserve to breathe the same air he did, and just all these things that I had already internalized. I mean, the world has already showed me that's what I am anyway. And he told me to give him a reason to beg for my life and give him a reason to let me live. So I didn't understand yet. I hadn't been to college, didn't get a GED, didn't learn how to read and write, didn't do all those crazy things yet. So I didn't understand the psychology behind creepos like this that thrive on the fear that those girls have. I wasn't scared. I was like, oh my gosh, is that a beep for me to shut up?
No.
I don't miss nothing. Except for when you roll your eyes. So, I decided in that moment, I closed my eyes and I surrendered. I was like, this God, I finally prayed to for the first time in my life, heard my prayer. Aww. And I'm going to be granted mercy, and nobody's ever going to hurt me again. Nobody's ever going to pay for me again, and nobody's ever going to hurt me again. And so I closed my eyes, and I just waited for him to pull the trigger. I was good. I was at peace. Wow, that prayer thing worked. It's over. And this guy got really mad because I wasn't scared. And I realized he was fixing to violate me all over again. And something I learned early on from beatings, because like I had a gorilla pimp. Like I watched him take a baseball bat and knock all the teeth out of one of our girls that worked with us' face off her mouth, and literally take her to a dentist after hours and have him fix it so he could put her back on the block a week later. Right? I had a gorilla pimp, what we call a gorilla pimp, and that means that his control was through violence, right? Food deprivation, sleep deprivation, like hanging from a bar, with your toes just barely touching the ground for hours and hours until your shoulders come out of socket. I had a gorilla pimp. And so I learned early on from my mom's beatings, if you didn't fight back, it wouldn't last as long, and it wouldn't hurt as bad. And that kept me alive even with my pimp, right? But in that moment, I was so angry and I was so full of rage that this God I had prayed to had betrayed me. The first time in my life, I finally leaned into God, and this guy's not going to kill me. He's fixing to rape me all over again. And I was so angry and I was so full of rage and adrenaline running through my veins and thinking about all my friends that died and nobody cared, right? Because we were just disposable people that society didn't care about.
Right.
And we had hopes, we had dreams, we wanted more, right? We all did. And I had a chance to get the gun, and I did. I looked him in the eyes. I told him to get on his knees. And when I looked at his eyes and I saw his fear, and I thought, had nobody ever saw mine? Like, from the time I was a little girl, how had nobody ever saw mine and had compassion for me? Because as much as I despised this despicable man, I felt a moment of empathy for his fear, right? I told him to get on his knees. And he sobbed and told me about his kids and his wife, his job, and how great of a guy he was. Right? All the value he brought to the world as he begged me for his life. And when I pulled that trigger, my intention was to murder that man that day. And God interceded on my behalf and gave me the courage to not only save that man's life, but my own. And I emptied the gun into the ground. I threw it as far as I could. I grabbed my clothes, left the man sobbing, wiped the blood from my face, and knew, with or without assistance, I couldn't go back because I had the capacity to kill without remorse. And I knew I didn't want to be the same monster I had experienced my whole life. And I knew once that happened, there would be no going back. And that's when I started my journey out. And that's the last day I was paid for. And so that would be November 21st, 2004. So praise be to God. My clean day. So I kind of nursed my. So I took a whole bunch of sleeping pills and kind of slept through my detox when I got clean. I slept until I could be awake without wanting to get high. And so my clean date is August 24th, 2005. So it's right around the corner. Yeah. I have 18 years. So I get arrested shortly after on a parole violation. I go to jail. They put me in a release center, and I meet a guy. So we all you get in the halfway house, you look at him. This guy and I used to, he had a bald-headed goatee, and I'm just a lush for a bald-headed guy with a goatee. He had a really great job. He framed houses. He had a really dark tan. Oh, my God, he had the most beautiful blue eyes. Oh, he was such a good-looking white boy. And, I'm just saying. And, I was just got out of a parole violation. I was looking kind of cute, and they called me Princess. And he was like the cutest guy at the halfway house, and I was the cutest girl at the halfway house. So it just made sense we'd hook up. And so, so we did. We used to play handball together. So if you haven't figured it out, I was not a blind hooker. Just in case you were thinking. I get upset all the time. So you're a blind hooker? I'm like, how would that even work? Like every domain in town would be taking my money. I wouldn't have had a chance to get an addiction because that'd been like, how does that even make sense? No, I was not. So I get a job at a McDonald's. I go in, like, I don't know how to read or write. So I'm picking up applications, and I'm remembering where I get them, and I'm taking them to my bunkie, and she's filling them out for me, and I'm taking them back. So finally, after about 36 rejections, this guy at McDonald's down on 4th Street, he's like, darling, I was looking at your application here, and I don't see any work history. Are you a homemaker or something? I'm like, something like that. He says, well, darling, if that smile's real, you got yourself a job. I'm like, well, bet. So I went to work at McDonald's. I'm still seeing this good-looking bald-headed, guy, with a goatee, blue eyes. He's a big, fat, ugly drunk now, but God love him. We still praying for him.
That's right.
We still praying for him. But we hook up. I get pregnant. I have some complications. In my second trimester, I start getting these really bad headaches. And in 3 days, I'm completely blind. And I have a choice, a medication to save my eyesight, but it'll take the life of my unborn child. And I choose my baby. I said, we'll do the medication when the baby's born. Well, my baby's daddy said, no, we can have another baby. And I said, no, I can't make that choice. So he left me. Because he wanted to have another baby, and I said I couldn't do it. And so when my child was born, when he was 5 weeks old, I had to have both of my eyes medically removed. So these are like prosthetics. Okay, so they come out. They're just plastic shells with pretty paint. So every 3 years, I get a new set with different colors. Pretty cool. I have some with little smiley faces, but they're so little that I can't see them. So it wasn't as cool as I thought it would be. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was like, oh, everybody's going to say, wait, is that a spotting piece in your eyes? That's so cute. But they're so small, nobody can see it. So in my head, it seemed really cool, but like in real life application, like I didn't know any blind people when I went blind. I'm like, how do you be blind? What's that look like? But because now I'm not going back. I went blind in 3 days, y'all. I'm not going. Now I'm an assistant manager at my job. I'm clean. Got some clean time under my belt. I'm not going back to my job, right? Baby daddy doesn't let me. So now what am I gonna do? I gotta learn how to be blind. Well, ain't got no education. I was illiterate, right? So the blind people tell me they can't help me. I know, because surely there's something wrong because I've done lived outside all my life, right? And I've only had one job in my life, and I was illiterate. And since I was illiterate before I went blind, they weren't really going to invest any time. So they put me in the sheltered workshop for developmentally delayed people and tell me I'm going to make $6 a day. Yeah, doing piecework, and that's as good as it gets, and I should be happy. I was like, well, who gets you to decide that? I got a baby at home. Like, and he is not going to be in the system. Well, baby's daddy by now has decided he needs to relapse because he can't handle that I had my eyes taken out. And I'm going to tell you, going blind suddenly is not a lot of fun. And there was plenty of times the only reason I didn't go smoke crack was because I couldn't imagine being spooked blind. Because I was one of those window peepers. I'd get in the car, I'd take that hit, and I'll be like on the gas. And they're like, I'm 40 miles from the dope, man. Dang, I got to get back to the dope house. And so I couldn't imagine being spooked like that, right? Blind. And there were times that was the only thing that kept me from like, because I know my dealer would be like, darn girl, that's awful, right? Man, I got you, right? I could have got the hookup. Right? And so, but there were times, I mean, I got to keep it real, right? It sucked. That's not some easy stuff to deal with. Well, what I learned is I go apply for housing, I go apply for food stamps, and I learned that I'm part of a lifetime food stamp ban for drug felons in the state of Missouri. There's this federal ban for housing and food stamp for drug felons only. Now, I could have shot that guy and then they gave me a food stamp. But I had an addiction, so ban for life. I'm like, I didn't sign up to get my eyeballs taken out. They didn't care. So I was part of this. So that's really what started my advocacy. So they kicked me out of Braille class. They tell me you learn your ABCs, and then we'll reassess you. And I'm like, So I get in Braille class and I get kicked out because like I smoked crack and so I had lots of calluses. Like I had some frostbite. So I don't know if you know, but the whole English language is based on a sequence of 6 dots. Like, I don't know what y'all talk about, but like we are not feeling the same kind of thingy here. Anyway, so I told her, I said, maybe I smoked too much crack. I don't know. But I mean, but every time she'd tell me this is what I was thinking, I'm sorry, I'm not there. So when I told her, maybe I smoked too much crack because there's something wrong with my sensitivity, I don't know. But I mean, I would just cry. She went and got her boss and they escorted me out. I never saw the Braille lady again. I got kicked out of Braille class, which was a blessing. They had to put me in a class to learn how to type. So what they did is they put me in to start learning adaptive technology. So I'm going to learn my ABCs on a laptop that talks. Well, you know, you're not supposed to peek at the keys when you type. So it was perfect for me. And so I started learning my ABCs. I started learning how to type. And while I was learning how to type, I was learning how to read. Right?
Oh, that's so cool.
Right? So then I'm like, hold on. I got a kid. I can't stay here. Y'all aren't going to fight for me. Well, who do I talk to? Well, my daycare lady said, that's crazy. So, bless her heart, she was so great. She says, you know what, I got this reporter friend. Do you mind if I give him a call? I'm like, well, sure. So I talked to this guy. He's like, what? He's like, look at all this stuff up. He said, girl, we got to do a story about this. So we start this story. And so I'm like, y'all have no right to decide for me if I'm trying to do better. I've been clean. I'm doing all the right things. I had a job. I did not sign up to go blind, and my kid is not going to be in the system. You don't get a right to say I deserve $6 a day and to live on the streets, right? And so they had to give it. They didn't like the media publicity they were getting. It didn't feel so good, and so. The poor little blind prostitute just tried to do a little bit better. Sacrificed the life of her unborn child for her own eyesight. Right? I mean, that's what I did. Right? I learned to scribe because of course I couldn't read or write, and I'm kicked out of Braille class. So, you know, so they decided I had an IQ of 136. Oh my. And I said, so what does that mean? And she said, well, you just scored the highest business aptitude test we've ever had in the facility. And I'm like, I bet that's a transferable skill. You know, I was a prostitute. I never collected a lot of money. There's a lot of customer service in I don't know if you know that. So, I wonder what that lady's face was looking like, right? So I said, so what does all this mean? And she says, well, that means that you're very intelligent and you can do anything you want and pursue anything you want. We'll pay for it. And I said, wait a minute, hold on. So you're saying you think I'm smart now, so now I have value? Like, how jacked up is that? Right? So we have a whole other system problem, right? It's like, oh, I got something else to fight. So, and this very same lady had told me I was unrehabilitatable. So I ended up getting my GED. I go to college. I applied for life. I get my master's degree. I applied for law school. They turn me down because I'm a felon. So then I go to seminary. And when I wrote my first book, and I hunted up that lady that told me I was unrehabilitatable, that I had told her, like, how dare you, think I have value now that you think I'm smart. A while ago, you said I was only worth $6 a day and I need to accept it, right? So I hunted her up and I typed out this letter and I said, this is my first box of books. I just wrote it. It just got published. And I said, and I wanted to make sure I sent you a copy, because of course your facility was part of my journey. I said, by the way, unrehabilitatable is not a word. Like, Google it, right? So that was a little of my justice. Then I got appointed to the State Advisory Board for Behavioral Health. Then I got asked to come to Botswana, Africa to speak to the Parliament on poverty. Then I got to go to Canada and speak to their Parliament about prostitution and rights as a human rights issue, right? I have gotten to speak many, many, many times at the White House. I've got to do some really cool things, right? I got appointed to the State Advisory Board for Substance Use Disorders, so I got to help regulate what do the services look like that we have in treatment facilities and write the federal block grant that funds programs that we have. I did that for 8 years, appointed by Governor Nixon, because that was a long time ago. Until I turned out, and they were like, well, do you want us to change the bylaws so you can say, let somebody else have a chance. I'm tired of coming up here. I don't drive. I'm on the Attorney General's task force, so I get to work with law enforcement. I get to carry a badge, which is pretty cool, so I can go wherever I want to. Nothing like a blind chick with a badge. So I am an expert witness on trauma. So on federal cases with the Department of Justice, I come in and I help the jury understand how a trauma-impacted victim might not be a stable victim and how trauma affects, especially early onset and complex trauma, so that the jury has a good idea when the witness may not respond the way people expect them to. So I get to really bridge that gap, which is really great. So I'm on the Supreme Court, which is really crazy. I know, right? It's pretty cool. I've changed, so we no longer have a lifetime food stamp ban for drug felons in the state of Missouri. Yes, and I made the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Y'all, this funny story, and I'm almost done. The real funny story, my phone rings, this guy named Joe, he calls. He's like, hey, I'm looking for Christine Mcdonald. I'm like, yeah. And it's like, so, I'm Joe. I'm with the Wall Street Journal, and I'm looking for Christine Mcdonald. I'm like, Joe, I think you got the wrong Christine McDonald. There's it's a real popular name. Like, there's a season. It's like really popular. There's like 10,463 of us. Like, that's a really popular name. And I don't think you have the right Christine McDonald. And he's like, so are you the Christine McDonald that lifted the lifetime food stamp ban for drug felons? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, I got the right Christine McDonald. I'm like, the Wall Street Journal, you guys are like the fancy folks. So I've helped found a few organizations. And like last week I was with 80 guys fresh out of prison talking about empathy, talking about buying sex. What leads women into prostitution? The name of the thing that we got people to sign up was Pimpin' and Hoeing. Yeah. Guys were crying when it was over. Several people gave their life to Jesus, right? Signed pledges never to buy sex again. A couple were pimps and said they weren't going to put any women on the corner. We'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? So I get to do some really cool stuff. I wrote a second book, Same Kind of Human, which is really for the church folks because they can jack some stuff up and they really mean well. But Scripture tells us how to respond to the vulnerable. I mean, we can learn a lot from that guy Jesus. We don't have to make it up. Scripture tells us how to respond, tells us how to act. So I get to go into organizations and help them do extensive needs assessments so we can remove the long-term barriers so people aren't recycling services because we want to break those channels. I believe giving a sandwich is very necessary. because that meets people where they are. That lets you know you're seen. Know we care, because you got to have food. And hey, I see you. Right, you're hurting, I know, I'm here. And you're validated, and that's important. But that doesn't change a lot of things. It might plant a few seeds, right, give a little validation. It doesn't change a lot of things. We have to change the way organizations are structured and operated, and so people aren't continuing to cycle services. What happens is we take care of their immediate needs, but we don't take the long-term barriers once they leave our program, and then 6 months later they're back because nobody will run to them because, they still have a felony conviction because nobody bothered to help them get expunged, right? We now have expungement in the state of Missouri because of a Criminal Justice Act Reform Act that I passed in 2019. Right? We have options for expungement, right? It's not easy. I'm hoping I can get automatic expungement in the next couple of years and it becomes easy, but I had to get something on the books so we could start somewhere. We no longer arrest women. Okay, so Missouri is one of 4 states that makes prostitution a felony. Right? And so we no longer charge felony prostitution in the state of Missouri. Praise be to God. I was just in D.C. Daniel actually was my sighted guide. God love him. I'm not sure he was ready for it, but I took him to hang out with a few senator friends of mine. We're working on a federal level to repeal the 1996 Welfare Reform Act War on Drugs, which says drug convicted felons in the United States of America do not have the right to get Pell Grants, federal housing dollars, TANF, or food stamps. Now, some states have made modifications to that, right? But there are a whole lot of states that haven't. And so we want to remove the modifications altogether and create an equal opportunity. If you're gonna discriminate against certain felons, discriminate against all of them, or don't discriminate against any of them, right? Make it fair across the board.